What's up, y'all? Ty, we're back with another GOAT video. Shout out to Thinking Basketball. We're going to be looking at Magic Johnson, who, look, I'll be the one to say it. After Steph's most recent ring, I said I think Steph's better than Magic, but this video could possibly prove me otherwise. I'm ready to hear about Magic Johnson in his prime. Again, shout out to Thinking Basketball. Get your coffee ready, and let's dive into this thing together.
Earvin Magic Johnson, the star of Showtime, a highlight reel legend who won 5 championships in Los Angeles. But was there more to his game than just fancy passing? What was his defensive impact like? And could someone who wasn't a huge scorer actually be the greatest offensive player in NBA history?
I do know during the MJ vids, they said Magic won an MVP that MJ deserves. So hopefully he brings that up too. These videos are immaculate, by the way. Shout out to Thinking Basketball, man. Videos are fantastic. 1987 to 89.
Magic's just a great basketball player. He's the best I've ever seen, you know. Unbelievable. I don't know what to say.
In the early days of the NBA, ball handling was left to the shorter players. Point guards maxed out.
And they still couldn't even like dribble with their left hands. It was kind of sad.
Magic Johnson shattered that ceiling. At 6'8", Magic had the size of a big man, but instead he became the tallest floor general in league history. Earvin always possessed these high-level ball skills, playing this way in high school and college, and his ability to handle the ball at high speed made him a unicorn in transition. With everyone within 20 feet of the hoop then, rebounds turned into foot races, and Magic's speed strained backpedaling defenders. That little change of direction is enough to spin around the defense, and there are no bigs back to stop the oversized Johnson.
And one.
With everyone chasing offensive rebounds, Magic could often charge the rim as the largest player, and he loved that in-and-out dribble, but also notice his change of direction at speed, the big step one way, then striding the other. He wasn't quite a Euro stepper in these spots, but his use of elongated strides for his height was part of his downhill devastation, even against set defenders. That's a baby cut there to dust the first defender, a beautiful behind-the-back dribble, and then almost a...
Bro, what is Kevin McHale doing? Can you get back on defense?
Proto-Euro step with a big step right, then changing directions back to the left.
Finish.
He wasn't Giannis, but Magic's size and head of speed made it difficult to keep him from getting...
The craziest thing is he's under control during everything he's doing.
Cup, and so he became the godfather of the grab and go, scooping a rebound and flooring it to the other end. Even on makes, he would build speed and drive it down your throat. Danny Ainge stays with the crossover here, but Boston's center isn't back yet, so Magic can easily clean up the miss. Off this make, he builds up speed, and Seattle's center is near the three-point line, so that change of direction turns him around, and look at how low and sturdy Johnson is. He's powering through contact with his body, and it's free throws.
It's just like he attacks in transition when the defense isn't even set, man. That's the best time to attack, though.
Here come the Lakers again off a make, only this time Boston has pieces in place, but Magic upshifts into a backpedaling Ainge, and so help defenders need to sink into the lane, and that just creates wide open offense. Defenses who flooded the paint in transition to wall off Magic still surrendered perimeter jumpers. These outside jumpers were big wins for defenses, especially long twos, but Magic's pressure created a kind of pick your poison where if help came, he smoked it with his passing. Jack approves.
That was a good finish. That reverse finish was tough.
That made big men reluctant to leave their marks, and then Magic just scored over smaller defenders. His playmaking was so threatening he could use it to unlock scoring. Imagine playing defense against this. If you sprint back, Magic uses that body to cut you off and slow you down, and if you're a big man hustling back, you have to snap yourself around only to cover AC Green flying down the wing, but joke's on you because the Magician still has the ball.
So tough. Like, it's so tough in any situation when the big man's got to guard 2-with-1 with an elite passer. It's just tough.
Magic's threat to score also opened passing windows in turn. And this is all possible because of his dribbling behind the back, through the legs,
he's 6'9".
whatever it took. Magic was incredibly secure with his handle in tight spots, changing speeds when needed, shielding the ball with his body, and snapping passes off the bounce. This allowed him to probe defenses. He's cut off well here, but protects the ball from a trailer and then attacks with the left, and again the body protects the rock. He made it look easy, but at 6'8", Magic's ability to protect the ball at speed. He was rarely ever stripped.
Do you realize how hard of a finish that is, too?
Use his body to shield defenders made him arguably the most dominant transition weapon ever. It was largely the same story in the half-court, too. This guard tries to funnel Magic into this big man, but he ends up bodying him out of the play, and it's free throws.
Kind of a bailout call right there, but still, it's once you get a defender on your back, it's over with.
Use that tight handle and change of speed. This stop and go turned John Stockton into a matador, and Magic's acceleration could blow by athletic wings. He could also score from floater range, flowing into shots at all kinds of angles with crafty little releases like this. Fist pump. When headed right to left, he also had a rolling hook shot from this range, and he could feel contact and immediately hop into a soft shot attempt. His size and body...
Is it crazy to say he reminds me of Luke a little bit? Like, they're not overly... Like, his transition's way better, but in the half court, like that little mid-range floater game and passing, it kind of does.
Made these looks clean, and Magic's incredible dexterity...
Like right there.
He led to some seriously soft touch on these shots. He also used his size to pick apart defenses from the perimeter, hurling assists over the top.
I'm impressed with his teammates' ability to catch tough passes, though.
And the accuracy and speed on some of these deliveries set them apart. Again, he's using his body here, able to shield off defenders by turning his back while still seeing all the action. And his height let him keep a live dribble while just diming up teammates over shorter guards. And these were some of the most brilliant passes ever. Does anyone look open here? Because Magic slingshots a pass over traffic to Worthy.
That is a crazy pass. He just sees 44 doesn't have his head turned.
Because this defender turned away from James to navigate the screen, Worthy stopped instead of going through, and Magic's third eye read the whole thing.
It's crazy. That's such a high IQ play.
Johnson fired bold passes like this across the paint regularly, and they required velocity and the acuity to read defenders' eyes so he could throw fastballs right by their heads and they couldn't react in time. But
that right there is a crazy pass.
Bonus points for trying this against Larry Bird, who already picked off a tight Magic pass earlier in that game. That one was a looping attempt, and Magic clearly trusted his fastball more, sometimes even too much, overestimating how quickly he could teleport one past a nearby defender. And there are spots where a lob or something softer over the top look open, but he often throws it harder.
I mean, that's tough because there's two guys in the same area, though. Can you space the court a little bit?
He needs to lob one out in front of his intended receiver, but misses it, and then he's called for a one-step travel, changing his mind.
They called a travel on that? Like, I get it, it was out of bounds, but a travel? Man, I feel like refs back then were horrible. They called, like, stuff that wasn't even a call.
Minor nitpick about Magic's fastball is that sometimes it was a little too hot to handle.
That was just too low. What are you doing?
But most of the time, his passing velocity fit the ball into tight windows. For instance, some of his entries from the top like this were just bullseyes.
I mean, that's an easy pass. I'm not going to gas Magic for that pass.
He wasn't quite at Bird's level as an outlet passer, but he was splendid there as well, able to use that hairpin trigger off the bounce from the back court, and Magic's best outlets were snapping completions to his streaking teammates like this. There is an argument that Bird was a better pure passer of sorts, but I'm comfortable saying he was a superior off-ball passer.
Like, Bird's passing, I feel like, is so underrated. Maybe it's just me.
Johnson carved out way more chances, and risk-taking in those spots is a natural trade-off. He also mastered certain angles and reads. I
mean, if you throw passes like this, you're going to have some turnovers. You just don't.
Relentlessly hit them over and over, and so it's nearly impossible to argue that anyone created more offense for his teammates in the 60s, 70s, or 80s than peak Magic Johnson. Using our best estimates of shots created, no one forced help and then set up a teammate more than Magic until the 2000s, And even if we include
that's crazy, the outlier right there. That's nuts.
From the three-point era, Johnson still looks historically strong as a playmaker in these estimates. So how high did all of this playmaking take the Lakers on offense? And did Magic give back any of that value because of questionable defense?
And it's crazy he wasn't good defensively. Like, you're 6'9" at the point guard position. You should be able to add some value defensively.
The converse weapon. That's to shoot. That's Magic do what he was born to do.
Toward the end of the 80s, more of Magic's shot creation came in the half court as the Lakers moved away from a steady diet of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar post-ups and started running more pick and roll for Magic. These were mostly side pick and rolls.
And this looks like Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert, to be honest. The side pick and roll, empty side.
Inside the line, where defenses committed extra defenders and Magic could spray passes for open looks.
Michael Cooper.
This two-man game gave defenses fits, where if they didn't send extra defenders, Magic could slice into the openings himself.
He tried it.
But of course, his passing punished any help. The defense collapses, and this was before that little lob pass was popular. Off pick and roll, Magic could use all his little scoring tricks headed to the rim. He could put that speedy hook pass to
Was that on Mark Eaton? Hold up.
Headed to the rim.
Is that on Mark Eaton? It is.
He could put that speedy hook pass to good use, hitting the roll man.
Gosh, his big men catch, like, they got good hands.
And it wasn't as common, but he could make the pocket pass too. But perhaps the most critical part of this half-court dance was Magic's outside shooting, where he'd punish defenders who went under the screen. He didn't pull this as frequently as some players do today, but there were times when he was quick to fire, and he was an underrated outside shooter.
He was knocked down? I was going to say, I don't know Magic is a shooter,
The last 3 years of his career, he shot 90% at the foul line, and he extended his range beyond the three-point stripe, hitting 34% of those.
90% from the free throw line? Why did I not ever think of Magic as a shooter?
Before the 87 season, Magic said he had to shift his mindset to become more of a scorer, and I think it's reflected in his willingness to pull the trigger on outside shots and attack in the post more. He was more aggressive, taking smaller players to the block and using his size to score over them.
Oh my gosh. It's a little baby on him. Is that Sean Kemp?
Although on these little flip shots, he did need a clean look to be effective, so instead he regularly busted out hook shots with both hands. And his combination of size, strength, and craftiness made him a serious mismatch against
How do you guard that, honestly?
Guards down there. And yes, if you send help, he would set up teammates from the block. Look, I'm not a doctor, but double teaming Magic Johnson in the post is not something I'd recommend. As Kareem faded, the Lakers actually played more in the half court behind Magic. Their pace was below average from 1987 to 1991, and that's when Magic quarterbacked some of the most
It's just like these shots are impossible to guard.
efficient offenses in NBA history. In the back half of the 80s, the Lakers produced the third best offensive stretch since the shot clock in both the regular season and playoffs.
Gosh.
Defense, however, was another story. Johnson often guarded forwards or slower guards to offset his slow.
Isn't that Dr. J? What are we talking? Isn't that Dr. J?
Foot speed. His lack of lateral quickness made him vulnerable on an island. And you can see how choppy his side-to-side movement could be, sliding in front of a young Charles Barkley here.
Oh my gosh, Chuck.
Take a closer look at his footwork. He's on his heels a lot, gambles with a reach, then can't really break well.
I mean, he was fine. He's in
and
good
commits
position.
a reckless foul.
He was in good position.
Same
too.
technique here, and he's roasted by a pedestrian point guard, although Magic rarely had to venture outside 20 feet
Who was that? I don't even know who that point
1980s
guard
like
was.
this. Back then, sagging way off guards who stood near the line was standard, and this buffer helped him avoid breakdowns in these
Bro, John Stockton, can you knock down a wide open 20-footer, please?
matchups. When he played
Man, this is sad.
slower forwards, his size definitely helped him. Here, Bird's not quick enough to beat Magic's loping steps. And as he lost some quickness at the end of the decade, he could be assigned to jump shooting bigs, because LA's forwards, AC Green and James Worthy, were both nimble enough to handle many wings.
As they should be.
If those big men were to take Magic to the post, his size offered some resistance, although even on the low block, his subpar agility and lack of vertical explosion could be exploited. He was actually more comfortable double teaming the post, where he could dig down and attack big men of that post-centric era, although I wouldn't call his hands great. They could miss the...
It's just easy because nobody could shoot, so obviously you're going to be able to double, but he's smart with it too.
...mark, and he would foul on imprecise swipes at times. At 6'8", he did make kick-out passes a touch harder, yet he didn't attack the ball on that first dribble nearly as much as someone like Bird, often remaining upright on these plays or offering a weak flail at the rock.
He's just out of position.
Magic's height was more of an asset on entry passes from smaller guards, and here comes that pseudo Euro step again. This
Magic in transition was so tough.
is an overhead view of the perks of being tall, just throwing his hands up against a smaller guard, and deflection.
It would be tough if you're a 6'1" guard to throw over Magic though. Like, what are you supposed to do?
Things like this triggered that vaunted Showtime fast break. Like Bird, Magic also roamed a lot on the edge of the paint, so he could slide over on drives like this when he wasn't doubling the post. Here's a nice sequence where he stays with the cutter and then peels off to help on the action, and that deflection saved a Boston layup. He could also help down on cutters at the rim, sniffing this
because he's tall
out and doing just enough to disrupt it. And this is probably the best defensive play I've seen him make in the late 80s, quickly reacting to the pass this time, and those hands were right on the money.
That's Lakers
Yet
ball,
for
too.
all of his court vision, Magic wasn't always aware of the ball, occasionally tunnel visioning on the screening action in front of him as the ball dribbled right
I mean, it's against Larry Bird, though. Like, is that really Magic's fault?
past him.
Maybe.
He also fell asleep every once in a while. After a jumper, Bird beat him over the top twice with this in one game. Here he is
That would be so annoying as a Lakers fan to give up.
transition, unaware of the threat behind him, and he gets a taste of his own medicine. But
He
these
threw that pass right by him.
issues weren't too common. His bigger issue in the paint was verticality. He often slid over but offered statuesque resistance, and even Magic's better rotations weren't always effective because of how floor-bound he was.
It's like he's not even trying to jump.
Here's a bumpy possession highlighting his two biggest weaknesses. He can't contain the guard courtside because of his slow feet, then he lingers on the edge of the paint and delicately slides to the ball for a foul.
It's not bad defense, though.
He rarely contested at the rim in the half court, but in transition, he was often the first defender back, and he might as well have been 5'8" in these situations. It's not a huge
It's like, why are you not even trying to contest? Are you just trying to avoid fouling or what?
part of the game either, but this is probably the best transition contest I found in countless opportunities.
That's
His
crazy.
typical approach in these spots was avoiding contact by subtly moving out of the way, which preserved Magic's body in exchange for paperweight defense.
I'm gonna say, it's like he's not even trying. What is the point?
0-inch vertical contests rarely work. He didn't block many shots during this period, and when he did catch one, it was using that same low block technique we saw from Bird, targeting the ball while it's in the hand still, and it's amazing to me how similar yet different these two were. Neither was suited to stay with quick perimeter players, and they often roamed around on defense, taking advantage of the compressed game back then. Bird pushed boundaries as an off-ball post player and shooter, while Magic cranked the dial up with his on-ball
Man, these passes are ridiculous.
passing and speed game. And they also played next to Hall of Fame centers. And while Kevin McHale is rightfully heralded as an artist in the post, James Worthy was an isolation machine.
On Kevin
They
McHale?
blended perfectly with Magic as Kareem faded, providing a more dynamic half-court backup plan. Note how many great Magic passes are off a Worthy cut. And of course, Big Game James was incredible running the wing in transition.
Okay, James Worthy poster people. Oh my god.
Unfortunately, we can't really examine their missed time during the 80s because Magic and his teammates were so healthy. But the more comprehensive approach we used in episode 1 that figured out a player's impact on his team ranks Magic second all time, reinforcing at the very
second all time?
least that he was having monster offensive impact. All-in-one metrics also view his peak as one of history's very best. If we use 1986 instead of 1989 here, he's actually 5th in both stats, but I don't think there's enough of a defensive boost from that 86 season to outweigh his increased offensive aggression at the end of the decade. Remember, that aggression only enhanced his playmaking, the opposite phenomenon we discussed with Wilt Chamberlain in episode 1. Magic scored less than Wilt, but was a far more dominant weapon because he maximized his playmaking off of his scoring.
I mean, for a point guard, it's easier to... maybe it's not. I feel like it's easier for a point guard, though. I mean, because I want to say Magic had the ball in his hands at all times, but so did Wilt, to be honest.
He did this with near optimal shot selection as well, rarely ever forcing low percentage attempts or settling for something easy before testing the defense. Magic's also viewed as a good rebounder because of his 6 or 7 boards a game, well listed as a point guard, but he was functionally closer to a wing and wasn't overly physical boxing out big men when switching on to them.
I mean, that's Ralph. He is 7'4", and oh my gosh,
and while there
Ralph.
might have been a tactical advantage to him cleaning the glass to start the fast break,
That's what I'm saying. You get a board, then you can push.
I think this kind of rebounding only added a little defensive value. I do think he could string together decent possessions in the moments where his motor was revved up, but it's hard to view him as much of a positive on that end.
I mean, it looked like he was good that possession that I just watched.
The offense is so good, it elevates him among the legends by itself.
That's nuts offensively.
His game does come with a small trade-off. He was significantly less effective without monopolizing the basketball, meaning any other on-ball star wouldn't fit well next to him. But with post pieces or good finishers, he basically guaranteed you a championship-level offense. And that means despite only scoring 20 points per game, Magic Johnson has a strong case as the greatest offensive player of all time.
That's crazy. I've never thought, like, when we mentioned the greatest offensive players of all time, not once has Magic Johnson ever even came to my mind, which is crazy because he probably should. Like, defensively, I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's a poor defender, honestly. But, I mean, one of the best offensive players of all time. I don't know. I like the way Magic played, though. Great passer, super high IQ. Wasn't the most athletic, but man, I feel like if he would have played today, I'd have been a big Magic Johnson fan. As long as he didn't play in LA. Drop a like on the video, guys. Subscribe if you are new, and as always, man, I love you guys. Have a blessed day.